So you get sick. Ever stop to think what's really going on inside your body? It's not just some random unlucky event. Nope, it's a full-on, highly sophisticated attack carried out by microscopic invaders that have been perfecting their game for millions of years. So let's open up the Pathogens playbook and see exactly how these tiny terrors pull it off.
I mean, just look at this thing. This is one of our main antagonists, Streptococcus pneumonia. It's the bacteria behind nasty stuff like pneumonia and meningitis. And that shimmery halo you see around it? That is not for show. That's a slippery, slimy capsule, a self-made shield that is absolutely key to its success. It's our first big clue that these microbes don't just accidentally make us sick, they come fully prepared for a fight.
And really, every successful pathogen has one. A playbook, a whole sequence of moves that lets it get in, set up shop, and fend off our body's own security forces. So today we're going to break down that playbook move by move to really understand the microscopic game of chess that's happening inside of us every single time we catch a bug.
Now, to get the playbook, you first have to understand the players and the game itself. And this is not a one-sided fight. It's a constant, ongoing arms race. It's a story of coevolution, where microbes and us, their hosts, are always trying to outsmart each other.
Okay, so to follow the action, there are two key terms we got to get straight. First is pathogenicity. That's the ability, the basic potential for a microbe to cause disease. You can think of it like this. Does it even have the genetic toolkit to be a bad guy? But then there's virulence, and that's the degree of harm, the sheer intensity of the attack. A pathogen with high virulence can cause a really serious disease with just a handful of organisms.
And you know, this arms race we mentioned, it's a little more nuanced than just all-out war. Sometimes, as this quote puts it so well, disease is just a negotiation for resources gone terribly wrong. It's a biological misinterpretation of borders, where the microbe's strategy for survival just happens to clash with our own well-being.
So, how does the invasion actually start? Well, the first chapter in the playbook is all about one thing: getting past our initial defenses and breaking into the body's fortress.
And every single successful infection follows a pretty standard four-step plan. First, the pathogen has to get to you. That's transport. Second, it can't just drift around. It has to adhere or stick to a surface inside your body. Third, it's got to invade, pushing past that surface and into your tissues. And finally, step 4, it has to multiply and establish a colony. If it fails at any one of these steps, the invasion is over. Game over.
Let's zoom in on step 2, adherence, because this is just wild. See those little hair-like things? They're called fimbria. They work like tiny, microscopic grappling hooks, and they have these specialized molecules on their tips that bind with incredible precision to receptors on our cells. Without this grip, most bacteria would just get washed away.
Okay, so once they've latched on, they pull out their chemical toolkit to break through. They release enzymes like collagenase to literally chew through the structural framework of our tissues, and hyaluronidase to dissolve the very cement that holds our cells together. Some can even use coagulase to build a tiny blood clot around themselves, basically creating a temporary hiding spot from our immune system. It's brilliant, really.
All right, the pathogen has breached our defenses, it's set up a colony, and now the real damage begins. This is when they deploy their most powerful weapons, toxins.
Pathogens basically have two main strategies here. First, there are exotoxins. These are proteins that are actively pumped out by living bacteria. Think of them like targeted missiles. They're often incredibly powerful and very specific. The second strategy involves endotoxins. These aren't fired out on purpose, they're actually part of the bacteria's cell wall. They only get released when the bacterium dies and breaks apart, causing more general, system-wide problems like fever and shock.
Exotoxins, like the ones that cause diphtheria or cholera, often use this really elegant two-part system called an A-B toxin. The B subunit, that's the binding part. It's like a key that docks perfectly onto one of our cells. Once it's locked in, it opens a channel for the A subunit, the active or toxic part, to slip inside and just wreak havoc, usually by shutting down some critical process the cell needs to survive.
Other exotoxins, though, are a lot less subtle. They're essentially molecular hole punchers. These proteins just jam themselves into our cell membranes and form pores, or holes. This makes the cell leak out all its important stuff while water rushes in, causing the cell to swell up and just burst. It's a brutal but very effective strategy.
But look, a great offense isn't enough to win the war. The playbook also has to have a really solid defense.
And pathogens have evolved some truly incredible ways to hide from, disable, and escape our immune system. It's basically a game of microscopic spycraft. Hey, remember our little friend from the beginning, Streptococcus pneumoniae? Well, that slippery capsule we were talking about is its ultimate defense. It's a perfect invisibility cloak. Our immune cells, called phagocytes, are designed to hunt down and gobble up invaders. But this capsule makes the bacterium way too slick to get a grip on, letting it just slide by and evade capture. Okay, but this next move is one of the most amazing evasion tactics of all time. Some bacteria that live inside our cells, like Listeria, can actually hijack our own cellular machinery. They force our cell to build a tail for them out of a protein called actin, creating a literal rocket engine. This thing propels them with so much force that they shoot right out of that cell and into a neighboring one, spreading the infection without ever having to expose themselves to the defenses patrolling outside. It's incredible.
So we've seen the pathogen's playbook: invade, colonize, attack, and evade. But let's bring this back to us, the hosts. What does this microscopic battle actually feel like from our perspective?
Well, the result is this classic curve of a disease, which I'm sure looks pretty familiar to you. You've got the incubation period, where the pathogen is just getting started and you feel fine, then the prodromal stage, where you start feeling kind of off. The illness phase is the peak of the battle, when you feel the worst. And finally, convalescence is when your immune system starts to win the fight and you finally begin to recover.
This incredibly intricate dance of attack and defense, brings us to one final huge question. In this constant co-evolutionary arms race between microbes, which can reproduce in a matter of minutes, and us, who take decades to produce a new generation, who do you think really has the evolutionary edge?